Yes, guys. How are you? How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Happy Monday. I'm guessing it's not a happy Monday for most of you, for many of you going back to work today. Yeah, it's been a long time, hasn't it? It's been a while, a couple of weeks off for a lot of people. Now back at it, new year. Nothing changes for this guy. In about 8 minutes' time, I'll be cracking open my first drink, because some of us have been up since 5 a.m. doing bits and pieces. How are you all doing? It's a big day of football news. Ruben Amorim has been sacked as manager of Manchester United. About time, in my opinion. I was never someone that believed in him, never someone that believed that they were particularly getting better. And it has been a long time coming. The guy's been begging for the sack for me, been begging for the sack for a few months, 6 months, saying he's never going to change. Now he's turning around saying, I'm not the coach, I'm the manager. What does that mean? What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. He thinks that he should have more control over aspects of the football club that managers don't, or football teams don't give to the managers anymore. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. Managers don't get, or coaches, whatever you want to call it, the guy in charge of the first team doesn't get final say in the vast, vast, vast majority of situations on the players that they bring in. And you know what? The owners of football clubs, the chief executives or the direct owners or whoever you want to think of it, they have closer relationships day in, day out with the directors of football than they do the managers. Because directors of football aren't doing that much. They're in their office next door to the CEO somewhere, right? Pretending like they're talking to scouts and whatever they're doing, pushing bits around on a piece of paper. And so they have the ear. They have the ear, and politics is going to politic. That's the way it works. So when you hear all this notion about we've got to back managers, you have to back the manager. This manager wasn't backed by our ownership. That manager wasn't backed. What they're really asking for, essentially, is something that never really happens. Like in an ideal world, you have synchronicity between the manager and the director of football and the scouts, and everyone's pulling in the same direction. Everyone's on the same page. But in reality, you're going to have situations where the director of football is hopefully there for a longer period of time than the manager. The reality is that managers are there for 18 months on average. Very rarely do managers get past the 2.5, 3 year mark. Those that do have done something that sort of justifies it. But in the meantime, you're signing players on 5-6 year deals, and especially with this recent pivot towards youth, which is like emanating through football. You have situations where the managers want this because they need it now. They don't care about the 18-year-old being good in 4 years' time. It's a conflict. And, you're never going to have situations really where managers get final say. And that's been the case for quite a long time. So whenever I hear people say managers aren't being backed, I get it. I get it on principle. I get it on paper, the need to give the manager what they need. But you also have to see it from the club's perspective that the manager's likely to be here for 18 months and the players that you sign for them are going to be there for 4 or 5 years. So how do you get around that? Well, you either stick to a continuity of your philosophy and that the next manager and the manager after that and the manager after that, they might do things a little bit differently, but ultimately, like they follow the same principle playlist, which is how I see Manchester United now moving forward. By the way, we are talking about Tottenham today's show. I'm just starting. This is the kind of preamble to what I'm going into because we're about to lose Paratici. He's in Florence, apparently. And it's a done deal, apparently. But apparently, according to reports, he's going to be staying with Tottenham for another week, according to reports that are out of Italy. We'll talk about all this. And this is where I'm coming from today's show with. By the way, I completely forgot to say hello to everybody. I'll come to the chat in a minute. Smash the like button for me. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. You know what to do. Smash the granny out of it. Notification buttons should be squeezed as always. And comments should be dropped. We are, of course, also on all of your podcast platforms. This show will be immediately uploaded to Spotify where you can watch me back if you're out walking the wife, or if you're on the way home tonight and you want to listen to it, but YouTube's a little bit tricky on your phone. If you're on the train or whatever, just stick it on Spotify. I'll be there. Give us a follow over there. And of course, we are sponsored by today's sponsor, which is OK Jersey. And you know by now where to go to find all of your favorite clobber. Don't really have to sell this one too much. I think you guys are all aware of it, right? Search for OK Jersey if you're looking for the best prices and very good quality. for all of your football gear, your training gear, your athleisure wear, whatever it is you're looking for your New Year's resolutions or for Christmas presents, belated Christmas presents, whatever, birthday presents, etc. Then you can find them at OK Jersey. You get 8% off already. Fantastic prices. I think football shirts like £15, for example. But 8% off at checkout using code Sean at checkout. So do that for me if you are looking in that direction. We appreciate you all very, very much. We'll talk about Paratici, guys. I'm going to come and say hello to everybody in just a second. And I see my man Axitos in the house here. Where is he? And I think he's wondering whether or not this is the member show. It's not. The member show is later on today. I haven't set up the time for it yet. I'm probably going to do it between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. before the Spurs 5 UK time. So if you are a member of the show and you want to come on, I'm 100% going to do it today. 100%. I'm not going to let anyone down. We got Football Inc. straight after this show. So stay around. We're going to be going talking more in detail with Johnny about what's happening at Chelsea, what's happening obviously at Manchester United, all the transfer news, views and clues that's around the zeitgeist. That's what we do at 1:15 today. So in an hour and 15, we'll be over there. Until then, we're going to be here. I'm going to be talking to you about all things Tottenham, but I have to kind of lead into this with this Manchester United thing, guys, because as I say, like you heard what Amorim's, or maybe you didn't hear what he said, but he said, I'm not a coach. I was brought here to be a manager. But he was referred to as the head coach, first team coach. And you've got, is it Darren Fletcher that's stepping in charge in the interim or whatever? I mean, I saw Matt Goldbridge's reaction. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look after the show or after Football Link. He was nearly sick. He was nearly sick in his waste paper basket behind his chair. I think it's a little bit of theatrics going on there, but yeah, he's not happy. But listen, the whole principle here is that there is this notion of back your manager, right? I.e., which I think people say, I guess when it comes to Tottenham, Levy and ENIC never backed Conte, never backed Mourinho, and given them what they wanted. And we hear Lubo and Tel and everyone else who are on the kind of major ENIC out, Levy out train. They rattle off this list of like, we wanted this, we got this, we wanted that, we got that. And this, I guess there's truth to me. I never know how true those rumors are. But that kind of side of the argument regurgitates that information. And if there's truth to it, presuming there's truth to it, then obviously there's a disconnect and dislocation around what it was that the managers wanted and what they got. And that's fair enough. It's a source of frustration. But I also think it's a source of frustration to continually hear people present the argument that the manager should always get what he wants, because that's not how it works. And it hasn't been how it has worked in football for the most part for a long time. The longer that a manager stays at a football club, the more they are able to sort of recycle through the players that are bad eggs and bad energy or not what they need, and the more likely they are to get more and more input. But ultimately, in the first 2 years of a manager's contract, or first year and a half, you're lucky to get through half of your term as a manager. It's a beautiful thing to be a manager of football. You sign a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal, and 18 months in, you get paid out for the last 2.5 years. That's why no one ever resigns. That's why Maresca might be a donut, because allegedly he resigned. He didn't quit. I mean, falling on your sword is one thing, but giving up, I think he had an extra 2.5 years left. I don't know how much he's just sacrificed if he resigned. And this bozo, by the way, every job I've ever had, I resigned rather than being sacked, and with it, or being made redundant, and with it, giving up all of my probable payoff or whatever, probable like settlements, which, looking back now, I fell on my sword like a donut. I should have just waited until they, stood on my principle. And anyway, doesn't usually happen in football. Maresca looks like he's done it that way. Bit of a donut. Amorim didn't. But Amorim's rationale, and we knew it was going to happen. As soon as he said what he said yesterday, you knew, or Saturday, was it Saturday night? You knew he was going to get sacked, right? 100%. And I know that after yesterday, I know that that's something I've got to stop saying, because you got people like Drew Zilla, my man Drew Zilla, who listens intently to everybody in the Tottenham space or around the footballing space, and tries to find little things that he can do to to mimic and to impersonate. And he's very, very good at it, isn't he? Very, very good. Let me just, Bugsy's barking. Give me a second, guys. Let me just close the door. 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I hope you can not hear her anymore. She's going mental at the postman. But look, you know, Amorim, and this is where I kind of, if you remember, guys, a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks ago, we were talking about, especially on Football Inc., I was saying to Johnny, the Semenyo story, right? It didn't make any sense. The Yandy Amandi links, it didn't make any sense to Manchester United because Amorim's like, I play with a double 10. I don't play with wide men, right? He plays the Christmas tree formation or however you want to think of it, but he plays with a double 10 and Semenyo's not a 10. He certainly isn't really a striker. I'm sure he could play as a striker, but he's not really a striker. And Yandy Amandi certainly isn't a 10 either. They're both wingers. So when you started hearing this notion of Manchester United were interested in signing Semenyo, but he chose City, or it looks like he's chosen City, and Tottenham are interested in battling Manchester United for Yandy Amandi, I didn't put 2 and 2 together that the eventual situation was going to play out. But with the benefit of hindsight, it makes entire sense now. To me, the director of football at Manchester United is thinking, well, I want that player, I want that player, I want that player, and Amorim saying, Ange Postecoglou, I see Ange to United in the his name is like Brand Ange, right? It's amazing, isn't it? You can't get that guy out of our heads. The director of football wants players that Amorim's saying, I don't want them. I'm the manager, and the United saying, no, you're not. You're the coach. So, listen, a lesson to be learned there. A lesson to be learned for all of us, right? Like, I think that the power play of football, as much as managers have the power play of being able to say, sack me then, right? And eventually clubs will go, okay, get out. If you're not going to do as you're told, if you're not going to do it our way, you're just here to get the best out of what we give you. And it's the same thing that happens at Chelsea. And Maresca said, you know, allegedly, I don't know, I might be putting words in there, but, you know, Maresca's basically like saying, what you're telling me, I've got to play players that I don't necessarily want to play because you need to get their value up. Like, what is this? This isn't stocks and shares. And Johnny said it's eBay trading, right? eBay FC. And to like that sort of insight makes him spot on. Because it is like that. If you need to play players and you are Maresca and you're sitting there saying, wait a minute, what? You're telling me I've got to give this guy at least 15 minutes on the pitch because you need his value to be up so that you can sell him, you know, later on. And if that's the case, then what does the new guy, Rosnier, look like? He's just going to be a yes man, isn't he? I think that's going to end in absolute tears as well. Chelsea are just an amplified version of Tottenham. More money, more youth than we have, more expensive players, more short-termism, more impatience, more meddling. Everything seems to be just more over in West London than it is in Tottenham. But it's not that different to what's happening at United. It's just a different guys, a different viewpoint, but it's looking at the same problem, which is, well, it's not even necessarily a problem. It's only a problem unless you get on board it. But ultimately, it's that the people that are not at the top of the most important element of the club, which is the first team, have too much influence over what happens within the first team. You know? And I think it will be the same thing at Tottenham. But maybe that's why Paratici's out of here. Maybe that's why, and again, we'll talk about him in a second. But for me, I sit there and look at the situation and think football is being controlled by the suits now, isn't it? You know? And the only way that I think that you kind of get on board that as a football club and make it work is ultimately you find someone who can delegate effectively, but who comes in and brings in their manager so that the symbiotic relationship between the manager or the coach, whatever you want to call it, and the guy that's picking the team, that those two understand each other almost before they come to the football club, so that they are both like hand in glove on what it is that needs to happen. And remember, there was a guy, Ralph Rangnick, who was at United, and he said that the club needed open heart surgery, which is a kind of, a kind of gory way of saying the club is rotten top to bottom. And I think a lot of Tottenham fans think that way about our football club. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need new ownership. It just means that you need somebody within the current setup, the person who's in charge, to recognize that their inability to make things work, to delegate to somebody who can come in, who already has a relationship with the manager that they want to work with, and that those two are like joined at the hip, and that you give those things the necessary time to play out. Because directors of football seem to get a lot longer than managers do. And ultimately what management are clearly saying, football managers are clearly saying more and more often, and are more than happy to speak about this in the press to defend themselves, is to say, the reason why I'm not doing as well as you lot want me to be, the press, the fans, etc., is because I'm getting told how to run the things, and that's not why I joined. I've got some quotes here from Thomas Frank from yesterday. Let me bring it up, and then I'm going to come and say hello to the chat. Smash the like button, guys. Hit the subscribe. Where is it? So look at this Twitter. Thomas Frank on whether a lack of depth is hurting the club. I looked at some teams last night. They just put 3 players on like for like, and then they run away with the win. So let me put it that way. That would have helped us. So again, he's having a dig. He's having a dig at the setup of the football club, saying that there's not enough depth. He also, in the same argument though, he also said, same conversation, on the decision, on the decision to let Brennan Johnson leave. He said, sometimes, the decisions make more sense further down the line. And now there was an opportunity to sell a player with the club. Hasn't been that good in the past. And sometimes that window can be small. I don't know why I've gone from like German. I've gone from like Arnie Schwarzenegger there into a little bit Dutch and then somehow into South African as well. How's it, Breg? Yeah, sometimes, the decisions make more sense further down the line, Breg. And now there was an opportunity to sell a player, which the club hasn't been that good at in the past. And sometimes that window can be small if you want to do that. Okay, but what does that mean, though? What does that mean? Is he saying that he was told by Johan Lang? Is that what he's saying? He was told by Johan Lang and by Paratici, if Paratici is still involved in that sort of stuff. Was he told? Let me get my thing back. There we go. He's proper amazing, isn't it? Like proper. But no, not like that. Not proper amazing. We are certainly getting cancelled today, people. We are certainly getting cancelled today. Where's my cancelled jingle?
Oh no, it happened again. What did he just say? I guess it's time to say goodbye. We're getting cancelled today.
We love a little cancellation. Worst impression ever. Yeah. Worst impression ever. Like comic book guy for that ref. Yeah. You see what I did there? That was a pretty good impression of comic book guy. Worst ever. Let's talk about this. Get the dance jingle on, Sean, for shits and giggles. Oh, listen. If that's what the people want, that's what the people want. There you go. I'll give you what you want. I'll give the man what he wants. Listen, guys, let's get back to it, right? So let me say hello to some people. Let me say hello to some people in the house. Jesus, there's a hell of a lot. Big up to you all. Big up to you all. Let me, you know what? I'll start from here. What are we saying? Ghost is saying big up to you. Big up to you. Yeah, Jared Bowen. There's some Bowen stories out there today. Pisshead 68. My kind of man says, I'll take Amorim at Spurs. Not my kind of take, though, pisshead. Not my kind of take. I wouldn't take Amorim, wouldn't touch him with a barge pole, whoever's barge pole. Arnie post-stroke. Get to the chopper. Get down. Get down. Big up to Lee Smithy Smith. How you doing, my man? Haven't seen you for ages, buddy. Good to see you. Morning, Fiona. Morning. Bang the like button. Bang it for me, people. Bang it for me. What's crack-a-lacking? Yeah, Jared Bowen's not happening, I don't think. Nigerian accent, please. That comes after the watershed. For some reason, it's okay to do a German accent. It's okay to do an American accent. It's okay to do a French accent. Indian accents, Nigerian accents. Yeah, somehow people have a problem with it. I don't know. I mean, I kind of get it, but also it's just a fucking accent. What are we doing here? I'm not even doing a good accent. It's all shits and giggles. All shits and giggles. I called Bowen for the last 4 years, says My Rice. Do a Chinese. Beer can. That's that. That's the Jamaican accent, isn't it? Yeah. Listen. Big up to you all. We've got to talk a little bit about this Paratici thing, though, because apparently, let me get the story up. Where is it? Hang about. Here we go. This is from Sports Witness. Sports Witness likes to do a lot of translating. They do a lot of translations from Italian press and stuff. So they're not necessarily superb with. They don't come up with like their own stories, but they're worth checking out every now and again because they'll find sort of content that you don't necessarily see on like Give Me Sport or whatever. Give Me Sport or Caught Offside. We'll just go and use these ones. But as an aggregator of foreign news, it's pretty good. So anyway, they say Fabio Paratici has decided to end his. Is it on the screen? Yes, it is. Has decided to end his second spell at Tottenham to join Fiorentina. The sporting director, who returned to Spurs in October, already has an agreement in place with the Serie A side. On the 29th of December, La Nazione stated he wants to terminate his contract with Tottenham, but he wants to do it without any rifts or repercussions. At the weekend, Corriere dello Sport reported that Tottenham man should sort out his exit by Monday, which is today. Now, I said to you guys yesterday, apparently he wasn't going to be at the game last night. And I don't think he was. I haven't seen any like anyone mentioning it either way, but there was no sign of him as far as I could see. And I asked a few people that sit in that area, sit around there, if they could see him, and apparently not. Fiorenzo Viola report the deal is not in doubt, indicating Fiorentina will eventually appoint Paratici as their new head of football. However, the Tottenham director won't be arriving in Italy today. The director won't be leaving the Europa League winners for a week, and that's because of a specific request from the North London club. There is no explanation given for why Thomas Frank's side want to delay the Italians' exit. Despite claims elsewhere stating otherwise, Paratici won't leave Tottenham for a week. Fiorentina will now have to wait for a few more days for his arrival. Last week, Tottenham's Manuel Solomon joined Fiorentina on loan. There's belief this shows Paratici has started work at the Italian club. Well, that's what I said yesterday. I mean, what do we think about that? Like, do we consider Manuel Solomon's move to Fiorentina as Paratici's first bit of business and Tottenham's last, or just a piece of business that's nothing to do with Fiorentina? For me, I think he's, mixing his wines, so to speak. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I know people are saying that the argument against my belief that Paratici has done the dirty here is that, well, maybe the club have forced him out because he was legacy, Daniel Levy kind of guy. And maybe part of the audit uncovered that there was lots of things that Paratici maybe was involved in that shouldn't have been involved in, yada, yada, yada. Who knows, right? It's all speculation. But what I would say to that kind of suggestion is he signed on the dotted line after Daniel Levy had left. And he knew what he was walking into. He knew he walked into a dual directorship role. So to take the job, and I don't know how much they get paid, whatever, like $250,000 a year, something like that, probably. To take the role for a few months, And look, these things don't you don't take the call from Fiorentina on the 31st of December and then you're leaving by the 1st of Jan, are you? Like, these things take a long time, and so I just think that he's screwed us up. I think he's screwed us over here. Like, has he been really taking that much interest in Tottenham's pursuit of transfers right now, given that he, in his mind, has been figuring out his new job? It's like asking, like, do you expect people that are on gardening leave, or, if you've got to work your notice at your job, you've got to work a 2-week notice, how much activity, how much real effort are you putting in? I remember when I got transferred from Australia to New York, when I was working in ad tech, I remember my boss in Australia wasn't happy that I was getting transferred, but I was like, well, it is what it is, right? Like, I'm getting moved across. And he wanted me to work up until like the day before my flight to New York and going out and closing sales and this, that, and the other with the people underneath me. And I was like, mate, what are you talking about? I've got to sell everything I own that I can't take with me. I've got to organize visas. Like, fucking don't take the piss, bro. Don't take the piss. Like, and so your interest, once you think you're moving on, you don't care. You don't really care. It's natural. It's the human condition. You stop caring about what you're doing. You start thinking about what you're going to be doing. And so I would sit there and assume, maybe wrongly, I hold my hands up if I'm wrong about it. We won't necessarily ever know the truth. But to me, I think that Paratici hasn't given two hoots about his job at Tottenham for most of the early winter. Tell me if you disagree with me. Let me know. But like, to me, I think that it's clear that we're working under the provision primarily of Johan Lang. Right now, is Johan Lang and going back to the initial premise of this whole show, hand in glove, is Johan Lang and Thomas Frank really on the same page? Are they best mates where they sit there and say, where Thomas Frank says, I need this. Johan Lang says, how about these? And Thomas Frank says, yeah, cool. Let's go after that. Well, just because they're Danish, just because both of them are Scandinavian, like that's assuming, that's just like making an assumption that, if there's an English guy in the New York office, that I'm immediately going to get on with him just because we happen to be from England, right? Like, and there was one, and I thought the guy was a donut, but like, let's not assume that there's brethren or like kind of, I don't know, there's some sort of camaraderie just because they come from the same part of the world. That doesn't make any sense. And in fact, to the contrary, Johan Lang was the guy that was the main guy in charge when Thomas Frank first arrived. And Thomas Frank turned around and said, I'm not saying that the Brentford model was better, but, it was better. So, is it the tail? Who's wagging the tail? Is it the tail wagging the dog, or is it the dog wagging the tail? Who is it that's leading the charge? And again, I go back to the overarching theme here of who should it be that we're listening to? Because in every single football club, the days of the manager getting what they want all the time are over. And managers don't like it. Conte didn't like it. Mourinho didn't like it. Pochettino may or may not have liked it. Right? There's rumours that Pochettino said, we've got this great new house, but no furniture. But then David Pleat, who was involved at Tottenham at the time, said it's not true that Tottenham didn't offer him players. They did. He just didn't want the players that were offered. So this notion of like Tottenham refused to buy anybody during that period after the Champions League, David Pleat said that's not true. They did offer him players. He just didn't want them. So again, we can speculate on the quality of the players, but again, managers like consistently think that they get to decide what they want. And if they don't, they can use that as an excuse to leverage a sacking if they're unhappy, or at least they can use it as a way to defend their own inability to outperform relative to expectations because they didn't get what they want. But you can understand why they don't always get what they want when you know that managers are here for 2 years and players that they get are here for 5 or 6 minimum, right? Or at least they're signed on those sort, especially young players. So there's just like a disconnect between how it could work in an ideal situation versus how it works in reality. And then you can choose who you listen to as to who's at fault, but you have to always, if you're trying to be reasonable, put your mind into the notion of identifying the rationale for why people say what they say. Are they trying to defend themselves? Are they trying to engineer a sacking so they can get paid off? Are they literally do they have things on there like do they think that they're operating in a system that wasn't sold to them? We don't know. We'll never know. And as fans, we can just speculate, and people are going to come at it with their own agendas depending on how much of a fan you are, or what you've said previously about wanting X player or X manager or whoever, right? Whoever. So there's lots to figure out here. Lots to figure out. Ollie B. Kirk, big up to you, says, to my knowledge, Thomas Frank and Langer are not that close. They worked together 20 years ago, but that's it. Yeah, I think I've heard that as well, to be honest. I think I've heard that as well. Capone 1979, big up to you. Says, who would you take at Spurs? Yildiz, Diamandi, El Nasser, or Nusa? I'll take any of them. Sorry, El Mala, sorry, or Nusa. I would take Yildiz first, Diamandi second, Nusa third, El Mala fourth. El Mala looks like a really good talent as well, but he's only been in the he's only been doing it in Germany for like 6 months or whatever. So, you know, but he looks like a real talent. It does look like a really good talent. Very fast, very, very fast, very confident as well. Yeah, nothing to really dislike about him. Nusa, I think, has gotten past his injury issues as far as I'm aware. So, and I wanted Antonio Nusa years ago, way back. Those who have been on the channel for like 3 or 4 years since I started, you would have heard me talking about Nusa before he went, because he was going to go to Brentford, and I was disappointed that Brentford had got in front of us in the queue. And then obviously when he failed his medical, I was like, well, if it's a short-term issue, then maybe sign him anyway. But you can't really sign injured players, right? So that's the problem. A problem again, right? We've got to talk about this because Mohamed Kudus is now out injured. And Thomas Frank, once again, like defending what happened after the fact, like saying it, like, in case you didn't know, guys, I feel like I need to point out the bloody obvious here because you guys attack me for everything. Yeah, I think it's the way that Thomas Frank is feeling right now. I was watching Chris Cowlin's show last night. Shout out to him. And he obviously sits pretty near the Tunnel Club, I think. I think he sits like, you know, West End Central. And he was getting pictures of Thomas Frank as he walked off the pitch. And he said there was people behind him, like a couple of rows behind him, that were booing Thomas Frank, screaming, effing and blinding at him as he was walking off. And the picture that the picture that Chris took of Thomas Frank, I don't know why my face has got a big red spot there. That's weird. Or a big red heat rash or something. I don't know what's going on. But like that picture sort of spoke 1,000 words, that he just looks a little bit worn out by the kind of energy towards him. And after the show, he in the press conference, he had to sort of point out the obvious, which was, you know, we didn't know that Kudus was injured when we let go of Brennan Johnson, which is obviously true, right? And obviously that's the way it goes. But it does beg the question: we have left ourselves a little bit short. Letting go of Brennan Johnson before you've got someone coming in. Now you lose Kudus, right, to an injury for however long. Maybe, I don't think it's a serious. Hopefully, it's not a serious one. But maybe if he's pulled his quad, that's a Udogie type injury, right? It looked like it was in the top of his quad. So maybe it might be a groin. Maybe, I don't know. But that could be weeks. It could be months. Who knows? But it's just sod's law, isn't it? Like, it's just always happens to Tottenham, doesn't it? Always happens. Like you try and get on the front foot, be proactive, and trying to remove people from the squad that you don't need. As he said in that quote I just showed you, you know, sometimes you get an opportunity. We're not very good at selling players. You know, the opportunity might disappear unless you do the job right there and then. Okay, cool. But how? Like, you've had 3 or 4 months to be identifying these players that you want to get. Where's the proactivity in replacing? Like, we're not really hearing anything around like Tottenham are in talks with, and that doesn't mean we're not in talks, because under Johan Lang, he seems to have kept things quite close to his chest. His way of doing business seems to be more around like cloak and dagger, and whereas Paratici's method was like, let's plant some stories, let's spin some plates, let's talk to, you know, several players, several agents, whatever, the stories leak out, you know, and there's a number of things going on at once, negotiates the right deal, goes back to whoever the hierarchy was, Levy at the time, and says, okay, well, we've got this price, we can do this one at this price, this one at this price, this one at this price, and then we talk about it and figure out which one to go for. Which, look, it was always good for content creation. It was always good for the ability to keep talking about certain players. And that's how one of the ways that the channel got going for me. So I miss him in that regard. Johan Lang doesn't do it that way. So we don't know. Maybe we'll wake up tomorrow morning or later on today and it will just be Tottenham are in talks. You get an Ornstein. Tottenham are in talks with Yandy Amandi. And then all of a sudden, here we go. 5 minutes later, done deal. You know, that's been the case, hasn't it? It was the case with Kudus. It sort of crept up on us out of nowhere. It was sort of the case with Morgan Gibbs. It was definitely the case with Morgan Gibbs-White. It was kind of the case for a little bit with the Eze thing until it dragged on and on and on. And certainly it was the case with Kolo Muani. And Xabi Simons was very quick as well. So I feel like we're not going to know too much until we know it. But at the same time, you have to kind of, day 5 and still no signings. Yeah. So listen, like it's early in the window. However, like you have had, and he said, we've got our first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth identified target for every position. Okay. So why haven't we, like, I'm not saying, I know it's difficult. I'm not trying to overly simplify the process, but and the absence of being able to get stuck into the kind of zeitgeist because we're just not given that information like we used to be, my previous point. Like we can assume that nothing's happening until it is, and that's probably not the case. But we've already played 2 games in January without Brennan Johnson. We've got 6 more games. We've got another game coming up in 48 hours' time, Wednesday night, I think it is. Yeah. Sorry, that's a good point, Rinketic. Yandy Amandi's at AFCON. A number of players we might be looking at are at AFCON, 100%. Same with the man that I'm not allowed to mention, but I'm going to mention him anyway. Lookman. You know, there's a lot of them. It's just a knock. Says Dino. Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen that video I put out on? Let me see if I can show it to you. I put this out on the shorts as well. Where is it? Oh, got to turn the music off. Spurs injury update. Dom Solanke is back on the grass. People thought that was AI. It's actually not. It's not AI. It's legit, as far as I'm aware. Someone's been hospitalized. They got their hands strapped down to the hospital bed. He's getting absolutely trashed. I mean, poor guy. He's probably better off with his hands strapped down, even though his head's gone. His head's been crushed a few times. But if he fell out, he might have been crushed again. I don't know. Absolutely horrendous stuff. But poor fella, whoever he is. Hope he's okay. That is like The Simpsons, yeah. Yeah, Kudus will be out for a few days, minor strain. See you in April then, Kixie. 100%, mate, 100%. We've got a couple of super chiddly chit-chats. Big up to you guys. A user, thank you very much. He says, I never understood it. TV has watershed hours 9 to 5:30 in the morning to protect young viewers, but most are watching YouTube without restrictions. Yeah, I don't know how it works. Like, that's one of the things that I realized when I was doing my the rabbit hole show. There was I said something on one of the shows around Epstein about him unaliving himself, and he got flagged obviously, and then in the video what I did, I showed him on a gurney, and then he got flagged, and then he got shut. Like, the video got deleted, basically removed by YouTube for violations because I talked about that topic briefly. right? I wasn't like encouraging it. I was just saying, oh, this guy apparently did this and this is anyway. And they said, oh, you can either delete it or you can turn it on to like not for under 18s, which all of my videos are like not for kids anyway. But if you specifically say that under 18s can't watch it, then you have to be logged in to a Gmail account and you have to have proven your age to be able to watch that stuff. So your views are just going to be like, collapse, because I don't know how many people watch me. I'm guessing a lot of you guys are not logged in. If you're watching this on TV or something, I'm guessing a lot of you probably are not logged into your Gmail account. And even if you are, have you actually gone through the process of like uploading your ID and all that stuff to go through it? That's all I was doing. I was only pointing out that the ears don't match and the nose is different. The nose, the whole video got removed. We almost got cancelled, didn't we, Matt? Yeah, we almost got cancelled, 100%. Sean does Rosenor. Who's that? The guy from Strasbourg we're talking about? I think he's going to fail miserably at Chelsea because he'll be a yes man. He'll be a yes man. He might be like, a young up and coming coach and all that stuff, but it's a massive problem if the directors of football, or God forbid, it's the owners of the football club, at Chelsea, Baghdadi or whatever his name is, and Todd Bowley, if they are literally saying, not only these are the players we're going to be signing for you, but also you have to play them because we need to get the valuations up on the players. I mean, it's a real problem. And whoever's going to walk into that, they're going to sit there and say, is there truth to what Maresca said? And if they say no, don't worry, but then it happens anyway, then again, the same thing, the same cycle will repeat. If they say yes, are you okay with that? I'd be like working for Donald Trump, wouldn't it? Donald Trump's like, have you ever seen Donald Trump on like whenever they do their cabinet meetings and it's televised? Like they go around every person in the table, and every single person has to start by like basically kissing his ass, telling him why, because of his unbelievable leadership, we've managed to do this, that, and the other. And there's Donald Trump going, well, it's just sycophantism, and it's the same sort of thing that will happen in football if you join that sort of club. And Chelsea will go round and round in circles, underperforming relative to their investment until they let footballers do the footballing thing and treat the experts with the respect that they deserve. But back to the point, right? Like, so how do you solve for that? Well, one of the ways that you do it is obviously to bring in a director of football that has people that will manage within that relationship, and they're already on the same page. Like they already know like what the other one is doing, and then there is no dislocation. There is no, egos at play here where there's like power struggles around who is it that gets the final say. Where if they're both on the same page, someone like a Ralph Rangnick, who, as I say, was at Manchester United, didn't get the manager that he wanted to get, and said that the club needs open heart surgery, didn't get it, got sacked. It's done brilliantly wherever he's gone. Well, Ralph Rangnick's right-hand man, as far as I'm aware, could be wrong about this, but it's Nagelsmann. So for me, if we are all on the same sort of page, and I think it doesn't matter who the content creator is, whether it's Stel, whether it's Sava, whether it's me, whether it's Chris Cowlin, Ricky Sachs, Expressions Oozing, We Are Tottenham. I think everybody and all of you guys that frequent all of those channels, and by the way, I'm not just deliberately leaving any content, all of the content creators to some degree agree that this club is a little bit rotten from top to bottom. We all have our individual sort of side takes on what's slightly more important than the other, how much responsibility is on the hands or on the head of, or the shoulders of the manager versus the player. All that stuff is kind of by the by. We all somewhat agree that the club is pretty much a mess. Then we're going through this massive turnover, this huge turnover of behind the scenes guys. Like, what is it, 8, 10 different new directors of this and that. Well, look, maybe when this particular story finishes, and it will finish, whether it finishes this week or this year, who knows? It will finish, right? The one thing you always know is that a manager eventually leaves. That's why if you're trying to be right all the time, I said this 1,000 times to you guys, right? Spot the intentions of people that think and say what they say. What's in it for them? And there's a lot of people out there who support even the most successful clubs and yet always lean into the negative because they want to be right, and eventually they will be. if you hate on the manager, you will eventually get your way. He will be sacked. And therefore, it doesn't matter whether it takes 2 weeks, 2 years, or any part in between, you'll eventually say, I told you so, because it's far more likely that success doesn't happen even at the most successful teams, right? That's just the way it is in football. So if your modus operandi is to be right, then lean negative. That's the easy outcome. It's super easy to predict the losing lottery numbers. It's very hard to predict the right ones. So the content creators that are worried about their ego, etc., will lean negative generally, right? That's just the way it works, and you see it in all the big operations, the big club, the big people. But to me, back to Tottenham. Did I do the super chats? I don't think I did I? Oh, I did. Sorry, I got completely sidetracked there. Big up to you, A user. Thank you very much. What was? Oh, I mentioned about the age thing. Yeah, sorry, I went off on a rant. I haven't even literally had my first glug, my first sip, so I'm stone cold sober. I can still drive the car, no problem whatsoever. Big up to you, Asa. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, my man, always here, always supporting, Chudini. Choo to you, buddy. Choo to you. How are you, my man? Big up. Guys, don't forget to smash the like button. I hate to ask, but if you are watching this on a device where the like button can be hit, then please hit it. I want to bring up and show you some of these things. Someone sent me this stuff on a Twitter DM, right? And it made me think, oh, I'll talk about that today. So I'll talk about that in a second. Once we're done with the big up to you, Dino. Once we're done with the rambling me. I genuinely think that it's easier for me to because I ramble so much. It's easier for me to do solo shows than it is to do like a host thing, because you have to be conscious of how much you talk. Whereas when it's just you've got to talk the whole time, right? 100% of the show is you. So Sean, 5th place and 14th place are separated by 3 points. They are. And we should be, is that right, actually? It's a bit more than that, isn't it? 5 points? Yeah, no, 4 points. 4 points. Chelsea are on 31 points. But you know what? In my opinion, if we had a better approach to football than what we've seen, we would have won yesterday. They were there for the taking yesterday. So annoying because it was so obvious what was going to happen. Give me 1 second, guys. You just 1 second. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry about that. We didn't need to sit back in that second half. Credit to Sunderland. They made it difficult for us. I don't even think that Brian Brobby should have been on the pitch, if I'm honest. I think he should have got a second yellow. I think he strangled someone at one point. But it was a great finish. But it was coming. Second half, it was coming. We sat back. They went after it. I think they sat there in the halftime team talk and went, they ain't that good, guys. Let's step on a gear. And Tottenham went, oh, God. I got all defensive. And look, we haven't scored an outfield goal, guys. We haven't scored an outfield goal in 10 hours of football. Let that sink in. We haven't scored a non-set piece, an outfield goal. What was I saying there? It doesn't make any sense. We haven't scored a goal that's an open play goal is what I'm looking for, sorry, in 10 hours of football. And Thomas Frank, he's already explored it, right? He said, what's wrong with winning 1-0 from a set piece? It's like Arsenal do it. Yeah, but Arsenal are trying to fucking win the league, bro. We're trying to like in a battle between 11th and 12th. It's irrelevant. Go for it. And you know what? Here's what I want to say. In fact, yeah, I'm just going to do super chats real quick. Big up to our Rex 003, member for 23 months. Thank you so much, Rexy. Appreciate you, my man. I'm not sure what your real... for some reason, all the names on YouTube have disappeared. They've gone to this app thing. So I never know who I'm talking to, but I'm sure I would recognize your name if it was the normal one, that whatever it is that's showing. But big up to you. Thank you for your loyalty. Nearly 2 years, my man. That's very, very generous of you. He says, Frank needs to go. Get Xavi in. See, I don't think that Xavi's the right guy for Tottenham at the moment. I think because our squad is, I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people would have you believe it is. I think it definitely needs improvements. But in terms of how Xavi specifically wants to play football, he wants to play a very, very technically, Barcelona kind of ta-ta-ta. And I think that it's fair to say that players like Polina wouldn't fit into a Xavi system at all. It's fair to say that players like Pape Sarr wouldn't work in it because he's just too loose with his passing. I think Xavi Simons would fit in it. I don't think Kudus would necessarily. Like Kudus in a different model, though, could do something a little bit different. I think Berghvall could be retrained. And because the version of Berghvall that we've seen like 3 different versions of Berghvall in 2 years, by the way. When he first came to Tottenham, he was heads up. He received the ball. He was doing the old Xavi and Iniesta style kind of like thing where he's always looking for space, moving into pockets, look up in the peripheral, knock the pass over the top. Now he gets the ball and runs around like a headless chicken and drives into sort of dark alleys a lot of the time. So he's good enough and he's got enough potential to be molded into any particular way of football. I think that would be required of him, because I think he's a sponge and I think he's thirsty for to get better. I really do. But I don't think that Xavi right now, I don't think we've got a squad right now, personally, it would take massive shifts for the most part. I think Romero would enjoy playing in a Xavi system. I think he'd love it. I think he would. I think Micky van der Ven is a good enough passer to be able to play it. I don't know about Jed Spence. I don't think he is. By the way, how good was Ben Davies last night? I thought Ben Davies was fantastic. Whipping balls in with his left foot. It's just nice to have a left footer on the left side who can sit back. He was like Pedro Porro on the left, but got stuck in and only popped up with a goal. We had a second chance for the goal as well. When Ben Davies plays, he's not afraid to have a crack from distance as well. Doesn't always come off. Just fair play to Ben for stepping up and stepping in. And again, just another demonstration why people that say, for fuck's sake, Ben Davies, like they're always wrong. They are always wrong. For some, Ben Davies used to get pigeonholed alongside Eric Dyer towards the end of Conte. People used to go, we're still stuck with Dyer and Davies, as though they were like joined at the hip. And Eric Dyer went through a crisis of confidence at Tottenham. He went to Munich and he lifted the cup. Now he's playing at Monaco, taking penalties. Like he's having the time of his life. He's fine. But Ben Davies has been a loyal servant to Tottenham and he doesn't let you down. He doesn't let you down. And I think he's a good, I think he's a great performance, and I think he should be recognised and acknowledged that he stepped up. This is his first start this season. Didn't look rusty. Didn't look. There was no bedding in period for him. There was no acclimation into the season for him. Stepped up, stepped in, got a goal, played really well, defended well for the most part, and fair play to him. Fair play to him. Big up to you though for the super chat. My man Rex. Oscar Guinness, please. Big up to you. He's put in a €6 super sticker. Thank you so much, man. Very generous, buddy. I can never see what the super stickers are, but I very much appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Choo to you. And Keith Edwards, big up to you, my man. He says, how can we win games when 1/3 of our attacking squad have been injured all season? You know what? It's an interesting segue, right? I want to move into this segue right now. Because it is a fair point. It is a fair point. We haven't got to play attacking football though, but we can play a different version of football, and it is a fair point. I want to show you these things, right? So look at we've got half an hour to go, guys. By the way, before we move over to footballing, so this is what someone sent me on DM. This is from FB Refs on Bentancur's passing progression stats, just him specifically. And I think they picked the right person to analyze, because when you look at the bigger squad detail, it tells similar things, but not the same story. But the 25-26 season, this is on a per 90 base. He has made 2.92 progressive passes in this season. He's put 5.46 in last season, so basically half as much last season. The season before, slightly more again in Ange Postecoglou's first season. And then the season before that and the season before that, when he had those injuries, 4.55 and 5.54. Right? Rodrigo Bentancur does have the ability, this is progressive completions, right? So of the 2.92, of the 3 passes that are progressive per 90, which is horrendous for a midfielder that's supposed to be an 8, by the way. It's absolutely shocking. less than one of them is completed. Why is that? Well, the completion part of it might be because players like Archie Gray are running around with no discernible pattern. It might be because we're not really asked to play that way. And so the less you're asked to play in a certain style, the less familiar you are with each other's kind of natural things to do, their natural pivots, left or right, whether someone's going to go to the left or someone's going to go to the right. All of those things become, the likelihood of success becomes more pronounced and amplified the more that you do something. Practice makes perfect is essentially the phrase I'm looking for there. In the previous seasons, his completion rates, obviously progressive passes are the most likely to be intercepted or anticipated and cleared from. So, but generally speaking, the ratio of the completions was higher, as was the frequency of him trying to do it. And if you actually look at progressive passes as a percentile, there you go. So 13% of his passes, I'm not sure if that's of his total passes or just, no, it would be the completion ratio, right? So 13% for 25-26, 75 percentile for 24-25, 80. Sorry, I think that's the percentile relative to other people in the top 5 leagues. Sorry, that's what it is. It's not the completion percentage. That's reflected here. You got to figure that out for yourself. 0.73 over 292, 1.53 over 546, whatever. But the percentile of where they stick in the top 5 leagues for midfielders in terms of progressive passes. And Bentancur used to be an 82nd or 75th, basically a very accomplished progressive passer, someone that would get it where it needed to go. These days, he's in the bottom 10 percentile. Has he become a different player overnight? Has his injury really affected him that much? Remember, he had a bigger injury, came back, obviously got injured again. But it's not. Like Occam's razor, when you look at everything else, tells you that is by design, right? And Thomas Frank has come out and said it. What's wrong with winning 1-0 from a set piece? Well, Thomas Frank will never understand. We're here to be entertained as much as we are to see victory. At least I think so. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm going to show you some more stats in a second. Let me just catch up with the chat. Let me see what you're saying. Sean, what are you talking about? Frank is Danish. The dialect you use is far away from the real one. I will try harder. Work at my accent. I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. Sorry. What's his name? Where is he? Ollie. Okay, so listen, mate. If you were English and you hear an American doing an English accent, cool, blimey, governor. Oh, chimney sweep. Extra, I'll read all about it. Most English people hear those accents and go, that's not how we sound, or at least it hasn't been for about, 125 years. Queen Victoria's lot might have sounded like that. So apologies, Mr. Sunderland, if my Danish accent isn't quite appropriate for your ears. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Yeah. I think Sean is from Papua New Guinea. Oh, God, I'm definitely getting cancelled for saying that. Let's have a drink. We're getting cancelled. Hearing Yanks doing English accents crack me up. Yeah, but cool, blimey. What's all this then? That's the best, Thomas Frank. I appreciate it. Can you do an impression of Frank doing an impression of Harry Kane? I reckon Drew Zilla could. Yeah, so no, I'm not going to do it. All I had to work with there was the idea of a lisp. I'm not going to do it. You're trying to get me cancelled, people. You're trying to get me cancelled. What are we doing here, Daniel Harris? What are we doing here? He doesn't get the club. He should have the Danny Blanchflower quote above his desk in the office. The game is about glory. I agree. I agree, guys. I agree 100%. One second. Uno secondo. Just got to change something in the settings. I can see there's a lot of people that are watching that aren't subscribed, but they're refusing to subscribe. So, guys, all I ask is a subby. So I'm going to stick on the subscription mode only on the chat. Nah, I'm only kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it later. Just hit the subscribe, guys. I'm trying to get to 40K. You know? Help a brother out. Actually, you guys have been fantastic with the subscriptions recently, to be honest. I mean, we jumped a lot in the last few days. Zero risk, zero reward. Is that my content strategy? Or is that an indictment of Thomas Frank's footballing strategy? I am the Ange Postecoglou of content. I risk getting cancelled every single day. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know what you want. If you want high caliber, if you want brilliant, esoteric knowledge of football, forget it. Forget it. Go find someone else. I'm here to wind people up. We're not subscribing to racist jokes that ain't funny. You know what, mate? Then fuck off. You know what? You can fuck right off. Oh no, I didn't mean to delete it. I meant to ban you. You're a donut. Get out. Get out of the. Oh, I'm just deleted the wrong one. Oh, I banned the wrong guy. Oh no. Ortania, I'll bring you back. I'll bring you back. Hang about. You can fuck off though. You can fuck off, James. You can go. Ortania, I've banned you by mistake. Let me go. I'll bring you back, Ortania. I promise you. Too many people coming. Too many people are chatting. Yeah, James VH74 fucking donut. Have a day off, bro. Have a day off. Justice for Ortania. Let's go and unblock the guy. Let's go and unblock him. How do I do that? Let's go and unblock him. Sorry, Ortania. Come back, bro. Settings. I've got to go to settings now. Community. User management. Where is he? Where's the guy I've just blocked? I haven't. Oh, there's a lot of people blocked on here. Who blocked all these people? Jeebus. Where are you, Ortania? Where are you? Give me 1 second, then we'll find you. How do I find you? There you are. You're back in the game. You're back in the game, Ortania. My apologies, my man. You're back in the game. Oh, Destiny's already fixed it, has he? Oh, okay, cool. Well done, Desto. Moderator in chief. Can we play Atomic Kitten for his Freedom Parade? 100%. 100%. One more time. One more time. There you go. There we go. There we go. Let's have a look, see what I was going to talk to you guys about. Where is he? Here we go. All right. So let's share this tab. Get it on the screen for a moment. Nigerian accent in Sean Dyche voice. What is this? This is hard work. It's hard work. It's hard work. Apparently you're racist for doing an accent, eh? Bore off. You fucking woke Willy. Let's have a look. This is what we're doing here. What we're doing here. So this is the 25-26 season. All right. And we're filtered by progressive passes. Okay. So in terms of progressive, we're just looking at passing progression. Xavi Simons is our most progressive passer, as you'd expect. Pedro Porro, 5.45. Destiny Udogie. So his absence is actually pretty impactful, but actually Jed Spencer stepped in and done pretty well. So you can see most of our progression comes from our fullbacks, which is probably not too dissimilar to certain teams that play certain styles of football. I think Fulham would absolutely represent that. Okay. Berghvall, doesn't play very much. But when he does, 3.86. Wilson Odobert hasn't played very much. Pape Matar Sarr doesn't play very much. Kevin Danso doesn't play very much. If you're looking at, and this guy's been suspended. So of the people that don't play entirely often, Berghvall, Odobert, Sarr, and Kevin Danso are our 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th most likely to progress the pass. They also happen to be, in terms of completion, Wilson Odobert. How's he? Oh, progressive. This is not carry. It's not completion. It's carries. My bad. So either way, progressive passes. Let's do this one. So this is the so we got the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. João Palhinha doesn't always start. The people that are on the pitch that we're looking at, they're not really playing that much. Now, you compare that to the 24-25 season right here. Progressive passes. James Maddison, number 1. Dejan Kulusevski, number 3, sorry. Heung Min, number 5. Rodrigo Bentancur, as I say, he's nowhere near it in the 25-26 season, but he's there. So we've got a different version of Bentancur. We don't have Sonny, we don't have Kulusevski, and we don't have James Maddison. We also don't have Yves Bissouma, who is also a progressive passer. By the way, 4.81. So Yves Bissouma, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9th on the list, Yves Bissouma. We've also just lost Brennan Johnson, by the way. But Yves Bissouma, 4.81 progressive passes per 90. And then if you go back to here, where would that be on this list? Yves Bissouma, if he was playing in this season on last year's tactics, would be our 4th highest progressive passer. So I'm not sure if all of this makes sense, but in reality, what I'm saying is that, first of all, half of the players that are our most likely to progress the ball under this season tactics don't even play that often for Thomas Frank. And those that do are doing it far less than the guys that we had last season. Last season, the people that were progressing the ball most frequently are injured this season or are no longer at the football club or don't play at all. And those players all the way down the list to 9th, 10th, and 11th, those guys were still progressing the ball more than everyone bar Xavi Simons and Pedro Porro this season under Thomas Frank. So that, to me, is an insight into Thomas Frank. Or maybe an insight into Ange Postecoglou, a combination. But this notion that the players are suddenly incapable of doing anything more than they are is for the birds. It's for the birds. So when people tell you these players are the only thing that we need to talk about and they're dog shit, they weren't last season at doing the things that we can't apparently do with these players this season. Yves Bissouma doesn't get a look in at Tottenham under Thomas Frank. And yet, if last season's Yves Bissouma was playing this season, he would be our 3rd most successful progressive passer of the ball. So stop with the notion that they're not capable of doing anything more than they are, because they did. And those that did last season aren't playing anymore for Tottenham. And it's only Kulusevski and Maddison, by the way, that are injured for the long run. Yves Bissouma, I know he's kind of injured, whatever, now he's on AFCON, whatever, but he wasn't playing anyway because he has a bad attitude. But everybody else last season was progressing the ball more than they are this season. So they can do it. They're being asked not to do it. It is by design. So please see the data and incorporate that into your mindset as to why it is that we're not playing better football. Because some people will have you believe that these players just are incapable of doing it. And they are not. They are not incapable of doing it. Big up to Ian Anderson. My dog's going mental downstairs. Big up to Ian Anderson with a £3 super sticker. I appreciate you very much indeed. Choo to you, my man. Choo to you. Oh my God, agree, Sean. Everyone's saying, oh, but injuries, our players are crap. They are footballers. They can pass and run. Yeah. I'm not making the argument that we don't need better. Of course, we need a better ball-playing midfielder. Bentancur has clearly fallen off, right, versus the version of himself before his injury, 100%. But the data is there for everyone to see. That under Ange, we did things differently. And yes, we conceded more goals. We weren't that different, right? We're about 13th or 14th in the league at this particular point in last season. And last season, we had all the injuries to the back line. When the back four played, when Udogie and Pedro Porro and Micky van der Ven and Romero played together, we won, I think it was 50% of the time, 55% more games. I forget the specific statistics. I forget them off the top of my head. But yes, Ange didn't have the injuries to his forward line, but we have somewhat replaced them. But I'm not even talking about attack versus defense. I'm just talking about things like simple progressive passes. Simple progressive passes. Let's look at, for 1 second, let's look at Tottenham Hotspur's performance yesterday against Sunderland. And let's look at players like, is it still on the screen? Yeah. Let's look at players like Bentancur, who I actually thought had a good game yesterday. I thought he was very good. Let's look at his passing. Right. Which way are we going here? We're going from left to right. We're going from left to right. So that's where Vicario is. And that is on the top right here. That's where we're supposed to be shooting. Every single fired, look at that forward pass with a bit of length to it. Miss. All of the progressive passes he tried yesterday, he missed with every single one of them. This one here is a long one that he got to its destination. This one here is a good one into the channel for Udogie. The vast majority, though, as always, are completely sideways, right? And this one is a couple of big sideways to kind of regressive passes. But the vast majority of his attempts to move the ball forward were unsuccessful. But that's fine, by the way. I don't obviously, you'd like to be able to see a higher completion rate. But again, if you're not used to doing it, as I said before, practice makes perfect. If you're not used to doing it, then the person who's receiving the pass doesn't know when he's going to do it, when he's not going to do it. Should I be in the channel here? Should I be making the move? Should I be running? And obviously, Sunderland are a well-drilled unit defensively, but the vast majority, and that was our best midfielding performance. Let's have a look at his partner, his playing partner. Again, can't really tell what sort of position he is from that map. Sorry, but Archie Gray for me is nowhere near good enough. Let's look at his passes. Didn't look at the amount of passes compared to Bentancur, by the way. I know he came off, didn't he? But he didn't get as many minutes. But again, sideways, everything sideways, bar that pass there, that pass there. So 2 progressive passes, I think you would call that. Failed attempt, failed. The rest of these are sideways. Right? You can see it for yourself. I'm not making it up. You know, how did Udogie do with his passing? Couple of progresses. Didn't pass a lot at all, did he? To be honest, when did he come off the pitch, Udogie? Did he get an injury, Udogie? Did Udogie get injured as well? On the 72nd minute? Oh, that was the concussion, wasn't it? It was a concussion injury. Shit. Did he get a concussion injury? Does that mean he's got to miss the next 10 days or something? Can anyone enlighten me there? I'm not sure. He came off a few minutes later, though. Who do I think the next Man United manager will be? I think the next Man United manager will be Glasner, probably. I think they put Darren Fletcher in charge until they can get Glasner, whether that's till the end of the season or whatever. But yeah, Manchester United are in a mess as well. You know, that's the situation. People are stirring the shit in Saba's chat. About what? I haven't mentioned Saba today. By the way, I wasn't even calling him out yesterday. I was just making the observation that I think he's a very big personality, and he has a lot of influence, and people listen to what he says. And I think that he has. I think he has influenced Lubo's opinion, because Lubo has flip-flopped massively on the players. And I might have been harsh on Lubo yesterday. People in the comments afterwards told me I was a bit harsh on Lubo. I wasn't meaning to be. I love Lubo to pieces. I love Saba to pieces. They're both my mates. Very good, close mates. I love them. But it doesn't mean I'm going to just sort of like not... And I was annoyed. I was really annoyed and frustrated with the performance. So, sometimes you vent, right? And maybe I was a little bit harsh on Lubo. But Lubo tries to pretend like he didn't say what he said. Lubo pretended like he hasn't supported these players, or he hasn't backed these players, or hasn't told everyone that these players were great, and suddenly the players aren't good enough. I've just shown you all the data, right, on last season versus this season, that shows you that this is like there is a tail to the story about the managerial impact of the strategy, the philosophy, and that is taking its toll. But for sure, there's no Saba believes what Saba believes. And he's more than welcome and have at it. I think he's a brilliant content creator. I think he's very provocative. I think he loves to engage with people. I think he's excellent at what he does. And I'm making the observation, not a criticism at all. It's actually a credit to him that he has the ability to push, to speak his mind. And I think a lot of people that watch him religiously, buy into what he says, and that's absolutely fine. And I think Lubo is one of them. I just personally think that Saba skips over the part of the analysis of Thomas Frank. He says, it's the players, it's the players, it's the players. And then when people say, what about Frank? He just jumps over it and says, fine, sack him, but then what? Which isn't the same as actually analysing whether or not Thomas Frank's done a good enough job. But I know that Saba's in private. Saba's spoken to me and said, look, everything at Tottenham's a mess. So he includes the manager in that, But yeah, absolutely no... There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing but love. Nothing but love. Yeah, I'm fair on Saba. I love Saba to pieces. I love Lubo to pieces as well. I know you love Lubo. Everyone loves Lubo. Everybody loves Lubo, because Lubo doesn't really have super strong opinions, does he? Everyone you'd expect to get sacked isn't getting the axe. Betting companies down 1,000. Who do you expect to get the sack? I think Thomas Frank won't last the season, but I do think we will end up with an interim in charge until the summer. I think what we'll do, but that's the point I was going to finish on, because I've got to go over. We're going to go over to Football Inc. in 5 minutes. What was I going to say? So I said to you guys about the idea of a Ralph Rangnick and a Nagelsmann connection, right? That kind of if you're going to let someone come in and control the football from the top, if you have to get on board that, which I think owners of football clubs increasingly are now spending more time just trusting the director of football, letting them control the ins and outs, and managers are there to coach more so than ever, then at least you need a manager that's symbiotic. It's all that's where the chemistry and the kind of economies of scale work out for the better. Then I think what you need is something like that. Now, I don't think Nagelsmann and Ralph Rangnick would be the couple. I'd love to see that. I think it'd be awesome. I'd get behind that all day long for a project. But I think a more likely one is Paul Mitchell and Pochettino. I think those two worked together before, and I think that they did well together. I think those two could get on each other's page, and ultimately you get behind that as a system. Do I ultimately think that Pochettino will come back and be a success at Tottenham? I don't. I don't think he will, but I feel like the fan base need to get it out of their system. They need to scratch that itch, because until they get over him, I think a lot of managers aren't going to get a fair crack. There's a lot of the fan base, a not insignificant amount of the fan base, that will forever yearn for the Pochettino touch. And I think that there was a lot of things that would just happen to be in the right moment at the right time during that 16 to 19 3-year period. Other teams were in rebuilds. We happened to identify the right young talent, and they were all coming up at the same time. And we were looking forward to a new stadium. We moved to Wembley. All of these things were just sort of it was all exciting. And the wave of momentum was in our sails, the wind was in our sails. And I think that I don't think that will happen again unless everything clicks. But I still think that Tottenham need to kind of get over Pochettino, you know. And I think that now that Levy's gone, could Poch come back? I think he would. I think he would absolutely come back next summer. So then we're treading water until then, right? Do I think Thomas Frank will be the guy? No. But do I think that there's no point in sacking him? Dougie Friedman, yeah, what a guy, what a talent ID he has. Unbelievable. But he always identified like younger players, right, that were coming up. Do you really think that Tottenham fans are going to... Like Dougie Freeman never signed, never gone up. I don't even know if you fucking need a director of football to identify whether or not, a £100 million player is really like anyone. If there's a £100 million player out there, you don't need to be an expert on football to figure out that they're good players, right? You just need someone to figure out whether it's worth the punt, which is a different skill set. That's more of an accountancy trick, isn't it? Rather than, is the player good enough? If there's a £100 million player out there, most people are going to sit there and say, yeah, he's good enough. Like we could all figure that stuff out. But you need the talent idea of the director of football to go and find the right player for the right squad and the right fit and the kind of the square pegs and the square holes. And for those things, you need to have the director of football and the manager on the same page. And I don't think they are at Manchester United. They haven't been at Newcastle United. Eddie Howe falls out with everyone that's in his director of football relationship. And Newcastle were trying to do that whole role. There's a lot of thoughts that maybe Eddie Howe might go to Chelsea. Is that going to work? No, because Eddie Howe wants to be the manager. He wants to be the overseer. But Chelsea want to have someone who's a yes man, who does as they're told. And the business side of the game, the kind of trait, the eBay FC thing, needs to work as well. So Maresca to United, it's the same problem, mate. He won't want to go there if it's the same thing, will he? He's like, listen to what Amorim has said. Listen to what Maresca has said. They're basically saying the same thing. I came here to coach. I came here to manage, but I'm just being asked to coach. But you know what? These managers need to recognize that that's likely the case in anywhere that they go these days, because it's just the par for the course. It's just par for the course. Guys, I've got to leave you, love you and leave you. Well, in fact, I won't love you and leave you. I'll see you in a minute. I'm going to moving. Stay where you are. You'll get redirected across to Football Inc. Johnny and I are going to talk about this. What happened yesterday, the football results, the transfer news, views and clues across the game, and also, of course, United and Chelsea, and we'll go through all that stuff again. But we'll get Johnny's take on it. Stay where you are. Appreciate you all. Please do hit the subscribe. Fan show tonight at some point around 6 o'clock, something like that. So look out for that if you want to come on and become come on the show via the members login. The members link will be in the post section on the YouTube page later on this evening. Love you all. See you on Spurs 5 as well. But right now, stay where you are. I'll be over there in a minute. Cheers, guys. Bye.